Hello everybody, welcome back to another trading recap where I'll be showing my more personal data and overall reviewing price action for the day. However, today's video is going to be more focused around journaling, how I journal, how you can journal, and important journaling really is towards profitability. So with today's trade or today's price action, it's going to be a very good representation of how I journal, and I'm also going to be showing an example of another day that I journaled because I rate and I care more about performance rather than actual P&L. So while today I took a statistical loss, I am super happy with my performance and super happy with my journaling. As to my other example on March 20 something, I was actually very unhappy with my performance and I came out of the day completely green on all XFAs. And you're gonna see just how why I care about these things, because I care about the longevity of things rather than the short term. Because while a statistical loss today with this setup sure gives me a couple bucks of drawdown today, I know in the long run this is A plus and this is a 90% 80% win rate setup rather than what I took a month ago on this specific day that was kind of bare minimum B minus, which in the long run doesn't give me that same ROI. Anyways, let's stop wasting time and get into the actual day. So prior to this distribution we are currently trading in, what are we doing? We were distributing from this 2-hour range. Now, if we take our fib tool, we can see that we are retracing into that this 2-hour and 1-hour lies in the equilibrium of this whole high time frame 4-hour range. So currently we are in the more rebalance side of things. However, just because we're in rebalance, normally in rebalances, when we are rebalancing and stuff like that, I can catch a more retracement type of trade or a distribution. However, with all-time highs being so near, I don't care about rebalance trades. Why? Because conditions. All-time high conditions don't require us to really sweep shit, honestly. It kind of breaks the rules of trading, but just wait for the distribution. Wait for an A plus long setup rather than fucking up with your probabilities even more, because we are so overextended. I don't know if you can tell yet, but their price doesn't require to rebalance lower when at all-time highs. So I'd rather just wait for an A plus opportunity to long from. So now getting into the gaps I marked out because it might be a little confusing. Don't pay attention to these two. I just wanted to mark out what we're distributing from for you so you guys can see. So what do we have here? We have a 4-hour. Hold up. Yeah, we have this 4-hour that we are keep kind of failing to distribute from. This is important because I want to show how important conditions are. So what can we normally expect from this 4-hour gap? To distribute higher. However, we keep wicking and retesting this area, unable to distribute higher, and not only that, but being held by this 2-hour premiumed bearish gap. What does this mean? That we are respecting this and kind of disrespecting this, failing to distribute. So what does this mean? That the objective for the rebalance is lower. So we are short-term bearish, long-term bullish. So why would we be bearish, or why would the objective be lower? To rebalance the whole range, to rebalance this 2-hour gap or 1-hour equilibrium. Now on ES, I'm not going to be checking ES, but we are at equilibrium at around this range. So right now, what I want is for us to sweep this intermediate low inside this 2-hour gap and react good from this 2-hour gap. Because we actually edged the CE, consequential encroachment point, which would give me a super A plus long setup. Now, if we decide to tap equilibrium of this NQ range and in the 1-hour, even better. However, not needed. Just like yesterday's trade, this is completely enough to give me validation towards high time frame distribution. Now, let's get into actual session. So price opens and we are incredibly uncorrelated with ES going up to the 30-minute unmitigated up here, and NQ just kind of fucking around, chopping around up. Yeah, this little external SMT, and we're kind of just chopping around. At this point, I am quite literally just waiting for both assets to get a little more in correlation, because if we have reason to distribute on NQ but none on ES and we're just incredibly uncorrelated, that's not a high probability setup I am willing to take. So yeah, we were kind of just fucking around and shit until this point. At this point, what happens? 9:30 is kind of failing to distribute. We are adding targets. This is a failed setup from an invalid 1 hour. I don't know. Some people took this. I'm not even going to cover it because it's so bad. But yeah, this setup just adds target. We're in accumulation. Super, super good, right? And here, this candle completely wicks out the CE of the 2 hour and sweeps the intermediate low. And we get this inversion. This is an A+ loss, the one I took. And something I want to mention, if you don't really know how to grade setups or anything yet, I trade inversions. So no matter how good I think I am, there are a lot of opinions, a lot of conviction based, a lot of traders that trade the same thing. So if you trade inversions, just check out Ronan, check out ICT Cam, check out Patrick and Blake PB. Check out people that trade inversions and compare yourself. So like, for example, today, Ronan wanted to take this loss and should have taken this loss, but he just didn't have time to get a market order. So I took this as I had already taken this as a statistical loss, but I wanted to see what other people's opinions were. Cam, he likes the trade. However, in his own opinion, ES didn't have a reason to distribute or structure to distribute from. I saw that in real time, and I accepted the risk. That is something you guys have to learn, and it's super, super important for every trade. I thought narratively and mechanically this trade was absolutely gorgeous and had no reason to lose. And so I honestly wanted to fade that. I didn't really care about ES not being in a stop hunted super great structure to distribute. I thought it was similar enough, and I didn't really care about it. Am I happy with the loss still? Yes, I don't really care. I would take that decision a million times over. Like an issue like that and just overcomplicate. Oh, yes, like whatever. Or let's say like, I don't know, like a bunch of little small things and just completely ruin their trade, and then they get upset that the trade is actually forming because they like overanalyze and get into analysis paralysis. But that's something I just don't like doing. I don't like really fading trades. I'd rather take the loss. And overall, I'm just super happy with this trade. I really don't care. However, we do get this setup, and I had already taken my loss on 3 accounts rather than 6 because I took it on the copy trade accounts, which were 3. But it instantly started displacing lower, so I held off and I took the loss on only 3 accounts rather than 6. So, a little cheeky little trade management. But yeah, this trade then comes about. Same exact setup. So at that point, I was like, if this A+ setup failed, what makes this setup better? And it was just that ES thing. ES did look like it was ready to distribute, but I was like, this setup is essentially the same. So I will not take this, and I don't care about it. Even then, it went invalid because it took the internal high, but this is where most people took their loss. This is narratively incredibly valid. It's really, really good. However, mechanically, it's just not there, and the RR is buns. But then we open up this 1 hour, and it adds to the draw. Super great trade. It's just that mechanically, I don't want to take this trade. Look at that close. On this close, it was bad. A lot of people could have entered here, but this is super invalid as we don't actually inverse this gap. And then when we do, we take the internal high. So, yeah, this trade is just super unfortunate. And yeah, this is just proof of why you shouldn't really fade mechanical criteria sometimes. I take those like pretty seriously, and yeah. So let's get over to the journaling aspect. So today I kind of went a little ham on the journaling, but normally I'm journaling my emotions. I put a little notes thing kind of like this. So this is my usual rubric. It's notes, draw, checklist, entry, and improvements, and then an overall rating for my day. This is good if you want to be a little more minimal and still getting everything done. This is my checklist. If anyone wants to copy it, I just, this is already enough to journal, but I just go a little over the top and do all this shit. But yeah, this is my checklist. So it's win-loss, time of trade, the daily profile, market making model. Was there true manipulation? Was there a stop hunt? Was it a sponsored gap? The time to close, the grade setup. Like time to close 7, that shit's booty. RR1 conviction, inversion time frame, internal SMT. Was there one external SMT? What high time frame PDA was I using? PDA rate, liquidity sweep, target, DOL. Rate reasoning, break even thoughts, 10 a.m. result in reasoning. Like this is when I was trying to get better at 10 a.m. Prediction, which is I still work towards. Break even thoughts, rate and reasoning when I was trying to get really good at reading trades. Was it an eval trade when I was struggling on differentiating eval trades with XFA trades, and interesting thoughts. So yeah, a little over the top, but I mean, you got to be over the top if you want to get over the top results. You get out what you put in. So yeah, notes. I just write down bullshit. My draw is how good I was at actually identifying my draw. Nothing mechanical, just how I was reading price action. A lot of people only get fixated on journaling actual results rather than their thought process throughout price action, or just how they acquired their draw, their conditions used, like things that don't like signify how good you are, like results. But these are the important things that get you towards your results. This is what I want to really, really recommend. You take, you prioritize. Then I just put my trade, just so I remember and shit. And then in orange, my improvements. And then I just rate myself. This day was a really shit day, but, and this is a clear example. I took 2 dubs. This one was A+, but I took it on eval. This is bad because this wasn't bad at the time because I wasn't using 30 seconds for XFAs. But then I took this dub on XFA, but a 4-hour was opening at my stop loss when I was in the trade and I didn't notice. So overall, was pretty unhappy with this day, actually, even though I took 2 wins. Because why? I'm rating my performance, my thought process, not P&L and results. So I was unhappy with this, even though I took full TP on both trades. However, my analysis wasn't all there. I rated myself around a C or a B because this is a lower probability trade. And yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it. Now we're going to be rating today's journaling. So today was a statistical loss. This is my record of this month. Or actually, I think it's just like the BNQ record. So, and I'm happy with the losses. Like break even. Right now, I'm kind of averaging a little more break evens than I want, especially the ones that lead to wins. Around a 50%, which is something I'm working on to shave down. But all the losses, LS statistical loss, LS statistical loss. However, this loss was a statistical loss, was avoidable, but I was super convicted, and it just had to do with the fact that we are trading all-time highs. It's an A+ trade, but with all-time high conditions, you just don't want to be taking that trade. So an avoidable loss here, but just only one. So overall, this is kind of what you want to strive for, getting those statistical losses and not the avoidable ones. Or even if you do get the avoidable ones, make sure you can justify them and you actually had A+ conviction towards them, like how I did. So I'm not unhappy. Like, I don't care about the record. I care about conviction, validity, and probabilities. Because I know any of these laws in the long run are like 80% of them are wins, which reflects my actual win rate, which is around an 80% or 76, 79 around there. So yeah. Let's get more into journaling. I journaled pre-market a little bit here. Known as Monday conditions. Proceed with caution. Gonna still be risking one. This is more personal risk management stuff. You guys, I don't care. I'm kind of more neutral, just waiting for conditions to get reacted off, but ultimately more bullish. Then throughout market, I start kind of like I've started to write just to like get my thoughts in order and make sure I'm actually doing the right thing instead of anything emotional. Let's get a little vulnerable with you guys. Let's see. Very uncorrelated day, and probably gonna be a no trade day. I wish it was. I'm staying patient, only waiting for a high quality long with these conditions. I missed that internal SMT. I took a loss off of a sweep rather than a new kilo. This is something I was worried about. Nothing really with price action, like nothing that you guys have to worry about. I was just worried that the inefficiency, since it was already rebalanced, that it wasn't valid to take as a valid PDA. But we mitigated its consequential encroachment, so that this idea, of being scared that I took a bad loss was actually invalid, and I did actually take a good loss. But it's good to like brainstorm like this and really like just put yourself on a high pedestal and hold yourself to the highest standard, because if you do, you can only perform like it. So really compare yourself to me, compare yourself to like anyone actually putting their heart out and getting really really good results. Because if you take the same losses they take and the same ones they take, you'll automatically just be a goated ass nigga, be a goated ass trader. So yeah, 30-second IFEG, same setup right after played out, but there's no difference, so I didn't take it. Now emotions, I honestly didn't feel very confident in the setup, but it was because of that inefficiency issue. I didn't really care about it, but I I some I just really like when I take setups that I'm not really confident in. This might seem really weird, but um I used to struggle a lot with hesitation, and something that really I struggled with analysis paralysis, as I'm just super analytical, and I love confluences. I love like pouring a bunch of shit onto the trade and to make it as high probability as ever. But I used to fade a lot of shit because of the most minor things. So something I really really like have been liking doing for the past like 4 months, 3 months, is no matter like what happens, like if the setup is there, I'm going to take it. If the A plus setup that I know is A plus, I'm going to take it. So yeah, just more of a unconfident setup today, which will happen. Like even the most A plus setups, you might feel a little bit not confident, and it's totally fine not to take it. However, I make it kind of a thing to take it. Then I watched the Ronan's meeting recap. I attended that just because I wanted to make sure. And super good statistical loss. He said he wanted to take it, but he just didn't get to. He should have taken that loss. Incredible structure, high time frame, low time frame, and premium. Discount, respecting and disrespecting, perfect low time frame narrative, and the 15-minute PO3. Narrative is just absolutely phenomenal and perfect mechanical structure. Only real con is that ES wasn't in a super valid place to distribute from. Now, all of this in conclusion, this is after reviewing every single like good profitable inversion trader that I hold myself to the same standard for. So, all in all, this is a day's worth of journaling. This is what I like. Only one red thing, like that's fire. And then in orange, just things that I can improve on. Inefficiency concern was invalid. Glad I faded that. Yeah, so I faded my only thing that I had going against my trade, which was invalid. So I put it in orange to not make the same mistake again, to not think that way. Improve confidence with draw and reasoning behind inefficiency and confluences with other stuff, just more personal stuff. And then rating my draw because I didn't have the space to do it up here. Near perfect draw, just some slight confusion due to not clean PA, but gathered and adapted to price and got the draw perfectly. This is the trade fully marked out that I took, CISD and inversion, and this is the checklist of targets, whatever. But yeah, guys, this essentially covers how I journal. Little tips here and there on how you should journal. But overall, all I can really tell you is hold yourself up to a high ass standard. If these other like profitable traders, are they FOMOing? Are they like taking like trades that are invalid? That took the internal high just because you want to get a little dopamine off? Write that shit down that you did take that and they didn't. Focus on every single discrepancy that the best of the best make
so you don't make them. Watch the recaps. Backtest past recaps from Blake. That's what I used to do. Or Ronan backtest sessions. Do the whole month and then review his month. Over journaling isn't only about forward testing, but about back testing as well. Hold yourself up to the same standard back testing as well as actual live markets. So yeah, it all just comes down to self-respect and just how much you respect yourself as a person and a trader. Um, and if you're willing to make these stupid ass mistakes for the short term dopamine rush. So yeah, just